Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, and give all praise to the Most High Yahweh, acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High bless this lesson this evening. Gives us knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, the Most High has given us a lot of confirmation of the lack of understanding every day of the other nations. He has really exposed the fact that they have a very superficial understanding of our scriptures. And it plays out every day with their attempt to fulfill prophecy. We're just going to take a little. We're going to take a look here at the connection between the zodiac of the Gemini and the Book of Mark, and it just shows you a little bit of the uh, deeper understanding that the other nations have lacked. There are a lot of lessons in the Gospels that the other nations were not aware of, and they really took a lot of the information very literal, and they're working their damnedest to try to make it seem as if that is the only way to understand this information. But there's always been a deeper meaning. It's kind of like we know that they've stolen our records, and when we were asleep, it worked out just fine because we were totally unaware that there was a much deeper meaning of hidden in the scriptures. So it was okay for them to get up on the pulpit and try to break down our scriptures because there was no one to go against what they're saying. But now that the Most High has awakened some, it's like those people are in the back of the room and they're just shaking their heads watching the Gentiles try to break down the scriptures. And you know how uncomfortable, you would be if you were a Gentile in the front of the room, at the pulpit, and those scriptures aren't yours. And you know that you really don't have a deep understanding of these scriptures. And but you got someone in the back of the room who that the scriptures really belong to, and they're just back there shaking their head, smirking and laughing at you. That's got to be a very unpleasant feeling, but that's exactly what's happening right now. See, gone are the days of when we're stuck just listening to them tell us the parameters of how this game is going to be played. This is the Monopoly board. You cannot go outside of the Monopoly board. These are the rules of the Monopoly game. You can't go outside of these rules I'm going to come up with. This is the Monopoly money, and you can't use anything else. See, that's how they're used to doing things. But once you've, saying, you know what, I'm not going to play by your rules. I'm going to, I'm going to follow other rules. I'm going to make up my own game. That makes it very, very uncomfortable for them. And as you can see now, you see a lot of people who have been used by the other nations, our people, and you see how they've been used, and they stick out just like these Gentiles. Out of the last couple of days, everyone's been talking about Amari Stoudemire. I heard about that story, I think, this morning when I was getting ready for work, how he was on Clubhouse and he went on with someone's platform and he was pretty much talking about the truth and getting into information about the truth and everything else, and actually confirming a lot of stuff that, hey, that we've been talking about. I heard about Amari Stoudemire being in the truth years ago. I kind of was disappointed with the way he kind of came at Kyrie when he knows, that there's more information, but he kind of, he followed the establishment, but he has to. He has to. He's part of the establishment, So what I heard was he kind of went out, said his piece with the Hebrew community, and then Ish, came up and pretty much set up a rebuttal to the things that Amari was saying. And Amari had to go on their channel and pretty much disavow all the stuff he said on the Israelite channel. And, it's like, well, what do you expect? I don't see, this is the thing. This is what is going on. If you're still stuck needing the approval of others, then you're never going to really be able to embrace this truth, because you're not going to get a lot of approval from others. You got to really be willing to step out on faith and trust the Most High. Trust what the Most High is telling you. Trust that voice that the Most High, is putting in your spirit. If you're looking for, a celebrity to confirm it for you, I used to hear that all the time. And the truth, oh, Kendrick Lamar knows the truth, or this comedian knows the truth, or this person knows the truth, or this actor knows the truth, because they'll mention a little something. You can't depend on that, because eventually they're going to flip, or they're going to work to try to keep you stagnant at a certain level and not continue to grow. That's just how the society is set up. When you watch The Matrix, and when Neo finally at the end of the movie starts to believe, he didn't believe because his enemies told him the truth. He didn't believe because others told him the truth. Eventually he believed, and he got those supernatural powers, Neo, at the end of the movies, because he believed it. He embraced the truth. And that's what you have to get to the point of, is that you need to concentrate on listening to the Most High. Now, when we're going to take a look here at this book, The Secret Truth About Jesus, the Gospel, and the Zodiac by Bill Darlison. And when you understand that, a lot of these, all these guys got their information from somewhere. They did not come up with this information on their own. When they're admitting, when you're starting to see that they know that Enoch was the one that was downloaded all this information, just because they got it secondhand and made a book out of it. See, what I've noticed is that a lot of times the Gentiles will give a certain person this information, and this is going to be your book. You're going to write this book. You're going to be our expert. So when we come later on needing information about this, you're going to be the expert. And they set up these experts all over the place. They have these people, and they're going to be the experts. But this guy did not get this information on his own. He got it from somewhere else. Now today we're going to be talking about Gemini. Okay. I have a few pages kind of set aside. I'm not sure how much we're going to get into it today, because there's really so much information, so much information. Hold on fast. I don't know why this is jumping around here. Okay. Take a look at the top, just kind of like I talked about needing the approval of others. You don't need the approval of others. All you need to do is really concentrate on the Father. Okay. It says, as Elijah discovered, God is not in the wind, or the earthquake, or the fire, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19, 11, and 12. Okay? And that's what it is. That's what it's all about. He's in that still small voice. See, the other nations are looking for these big events to, give them the proof of what they need. Oh, this is God. This is the earthquake. This fire here, or this here. This big event here. But see, the Most High talks to us. The Most High comes and gives us that voice and leads us in that direction. You didn't get here to this point on your own. The Most High is in that still, small voice. It says similar sentiments with similar imagery are expressed in the Bhagavad Gita or Gita. That gives itself to follow shows of sense, seeth its helm of wisdom rent away, and like a ship in waves of whirlwind drives to wreck and death. Only with him, great prince, whose senses are not swayed by things of sense. Only with him who holds his mastery, shows wisdom perfect. This passage shows Jesus' power over the element of air, the wind. During the course of the gospel, he will display his power over all four of the ancient elements. Now, this is the Gerasene demoniac. Okay, and you're going to see that there's these elements of Gemini hidden, in these stories. Okay, it says I was living an extremely burdensome life because in prayer I understood more clearly my faults. On the one hand, God was calling me. On the other hand, I was following the world. All the things of God made me happy. Those of the world held me bound. It seems I desire to harmonize these two contraries, so inimical to one another, such as the spiritual life and sensory joys, pleasures and pastimes. In prayer, I was having great trouble, for my spirit was not proceeding as Lord, but as slave. And so I was not able to shut myself within myself, which was my whole manner of procedure in prayer. Instead, I shut within myself a thousand vanities. Thus I passed many years, for now I am surprised how I could have put up with both and not abandon either, okay, the one or the other. Teresa of Avila, Bilecki, pages 43 and 4. And that's the thing with Gemini. It's like, it's like a schizophrenia kind of a thing. It's like you got two warring factions within yourself. And that goes along a lot with Gemini. And that goes along with this part of the book of Mark, okay? It says this same theme is explored in the next section. The story of the Gerasene demoniac, Mark 5, 1 through 20. As Jesus and his companions leave the boat, they are confronted by a man with an unclean spirit who lives among the tombs and is so violent that no chains are strong enough to bind him. Seeing Jesus in the distance, the man runs and worships him. Jesus commands the demon, okay, to leave, but the man cries out, I beg you, in God's name, don't torment me. The story continues. Then Jesus asked him, what is your name? My name is Legion, he replied, for we are many. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them. He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Okay? It is significant that the number of pigs should be given as 2,000. Again, that number 2 is very important. And as referring again to Gemini. Okay? Since this does not correspond with the name Legion, a Roman legion was normally 6,000 strong. It may well be that Geminian duality is reflected in the number. But the pig itself, while not generally associated with Gemini, does have one significant Geminian characteristic, and that it has a split hoof, completely divided. Leviticus 11 and 7. With the benefits of modern psychiatric knowledge, we cannot fail to see in the man with the 2,000 demons an example of that most Geminian of conditions, schizophrenia, or split personality. In fact, the term multiple personality would be a better description. This is an actual mental disorder, but we do not need to restrict the use of the term to describe those in whom the symptoms manifest so dramatically. Okay, so we're gonna leave that. You guys can read that part right there on your own. But again, there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more going on under the surface of these scriptures than just what you see at the beginning. And it just makes so much sense because when you're looking at when you go to church, the pastor will read the verse. He won't really go in depth or whatever else because they're taught to not look at the zodiacs and not look at the stars or whatever else and make those kinds of connections. They're just making connections with the superficial life that you see here in this world. And that's exactly what they've done with all these scriptures, and that's what they've done with prophecy today. This all prophecy right now is about the Most High's children awakening, waking up, and that's actually a part of this part of Mark and Gemini. It's about being asleep and being awakened by the Father here in the last days, and that is something that is not talked about very much. So all of a sudden they talk about this woke culture, everybody being woke and whatever else, but that's still not talking about being asleep and then awakening. They're trying to again they're trying to control the narrative on their own terms. Okay. Now, if you look, we'll skip down here to the bottom. Okay, because it talks when you start going into other gospels and they talk about the same stories. Sometimes those stories will actually still have the same Gemini theme, and sometimes it could be a little bit more straightforward in your face, like the Matthew point right here. Check this part out right here at the bottom of page 93. One final point. Matthew has two demoniacs in his version of the story. Matthew 8:24 and 30 to 34. Okay, which seems to be an even clearer indication of Gemini than Mark's one. Okay, this doubling by Matthew is generally explained as deliberate exaggeration of the Markan account in order to emphasize the great power of Jesus. However, it might just be that Matthew is here drawing on a version of the story which preserves the original zodiacal motif in a more obvious way than that given by Mark. Okay, and they're saying I think they're saying that there's actually different versions of Mark, because Mark is like I want to say the shortest gospel, and but they're saying that there's a longer one. Probably has more information. Okay, but again, like I said, right there with the two demoniacs, still going on with the whole theme of Gemini and the twins. Okay, so again, like I said, they make these connections between the different gospels, but then these connections still take you back to the zodiacs. So we can check here, page 94. It's got a lot of good information. So I'm leaving it, so I'm not going to go through every little thing, but you will be able to kind of read it on your own and kind of read it and do some studying on your own here as well. Jairus' daughter, okay, and the woman with the blood flow. Upon Jesus' return to Galilee, he encounters Jairus, okay, the synagogue official, whose 12-year-old daughter is desperately ill. On the way to Jairus' house, Jesus is approached by a woman who has been suffering a vaginal blood flow for 12 years. And you got that number 12 right there. You got the 12 zodiacs right there for both the young girl and the woman right there. She reaches out and touches his clothing and is immediately cured. After commending the woman's faith, Jesus and his companions proceed to Jairus' house. Okay, on the way they are met by some people who report that the girl is now dead. But on arrival at the house, Jesus tells them all that she is not dead. She is asleep. The final part of the story runs as follows. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha Kaum, which means little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this. and told them to give her something to eat. Okay, Mark 5:40 through 43. This is one of the few places in the gospel where Aramaic words, talitha, kaum, are used. Aramaic would have been the first language of Jesus and the apostles. And this has given rise to the conventional idea that Mark is here preserving actual remembered words. There is, however, another possible explanation. Jesus' words are given in Aramaic in order to emphasize them. This command is not just in Jairus' daughter, but to us all. Like her, we are asleep, right? Or is it just like her, we are asleep. We've all been asleep. And a big part of this awakening here at the end is prophecy. This is prophecy. This is a prophecy that the rest of the world doesn't want to talk about. That's why they're constantly talking about Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Iran, China, North Korea, South Korea, Taiwan, everything else, but not about being asleep and awakening, because they haven't been asleep. They've been in charge this whole time. Okay? We have no will, no resolve, no purpose. The Geminian fragmentation of our nature only exists because we are unaware of it. We believe we have a controlling center, an eye, when in fact we are composed of hundreds of eyes, each with its own agenda. The first step in overcoming this is, as Alpunsky says, awakening, since the chief feature of our being is that we are asleep. By trying to awake, we change our being. Okay? So Geminian Ralph Waldo Emerson puts it like this in his essay, The Preacher. All that we call religion, all that saints and churches and Bibles from the beginning of the world have aimed at, is to suppress this impertinent surface action. An animate man to central and entire action. The human race are afflicted with a Saint Vitus's dance. Their fingers and toes, their members, their senses, their talents are superfluously active. Hold on real quick. While the torpid heart gives no oracle. When that awakes, it will revolutionize the world. When we awake, we will revolutionize the world, okay? Let that speak, and all these rebels will fly to their loyalty. Now every man defeats his own action, professes this, but practices the reverse. With one hand rows, but with the other backs water. A man acts not from one motive, but from many shifting fears and short motives. It is as if he were 10 or 20 less men, okay, than himself, acting at discord with one another. So that the result of most lives is zero. Got one hand going one way, pushing you forward, and the other one pulling you back. And therefore, you go nowhere. And that's what happens to most people. And that's that's what happens over the lives of the vast majority of the people in this world. Right there. So that the result of most lives is zero. But when he shall act from one motive, and all his faculties play true, it is clear mathematically, is it not, that this will tell in the result as if 20 men had cooperated, will give new senses, new wisdom of its own kind. That is, no more facts, nor new combinations, but divination or direct intuition of men and things. Awakening is a consistent theme of all the world's spiritual traditions. The Buddha is the awakened one, Huxley writes. Okay? So, and that's exactly it, And one of the Pali scriptures, there is a significant anecdote about the Brahmin Drona who, seeing the blessed one sitting at the foot of a tree, asked him, "Are you a diva or a deva?" And the exalted one answered, "I am not." "Are you a Gandharva?" "I am not." "Are you a Kaksha?" "I am not." "Are you a man?" "I am not a man." Okay, on the Brahmin asking what he might be, the blessed one replied, those evil influences, those cravings, whose non destruction would have individualized me as a deva, a Gandharva, a Yaksha, three types of supernatural being, or a man, I have completely annihilated. Know therefore that I am a Buddha, i.e., I am awake. And that's what it is about enlightening, so you don't have one hand pulling you forward and one hand pulling you back, and the sum of your whole life is zero. Is that not what you hear all the time? People are like, oh yeah, man, I get it. I get this truth now. I understand. And then next week they're doing exactly the same things they've been doing this whole time. They get exposed to the truth, but then they fall right back into the things that they did before. And the grand sum total of their life is zero. The seeds fall, they hear the seeds, they hear this information, but it falls on bad ground, falls on a stony heart, and they don't do anything with it. And that's what you're seeing even going on right now in this world. Let's take it at the bottom here. It says, enlightenment for the Buddhists is simply waking up. The most obvious Geminian feature of the story of Jairus' daughter is the way in which it is told. Okay? It is the only miracle story in the Gospels, which combines two quite separate elements. Ninheim writes, what we have here is without precise parallel in the Gospel. An incident broken into by another incident, which takes place in the middle of it. Okay? It says, in addition, however, we should consider the names. Jairus' or Aerios, which means appropriately, Jehovah enlightens, but which also bears more than a passing resemblance to the name of the brightest star in the night sky. Sirius, in Greek, Sirios, the dog star, which is found in Canis Major. Okay? And that's right there is found in Canis Major, one of the Geminian decans. Okay? We're going to stop on that part right there. And like I said, you can see there at the end that there's more going on just with the names alone. In addition, like I said, in that last paragraph, however, we should consider the names. Jairus or Aerios, which means appropriately Jehovah enlightens. And he's enlightened many of us. Okay? But which also bears more than a passing resemblance to the name of the brightest star in the night sky. Sirius, or in the Greek, Sirios, the dog star. Okay? So like I said, there's all these hidden, lessons, hidden information. It's not right there. It is in front of your face, but there's more going on. There's more that meets the eye. But this is what was said was going to happen when the Gentiles got a hold of our books, a hold of our information, that they were going to, pretty much bastardize it. They were going to mess it up. They were going to twist it. And that's exactly what they've done. And that's why now you start looking at the news, and every day, I talk to people and you can hear them, they're losing faith because many of the things that they have been told, it's not working out the way that they have been told. But many of them are too proud to admit it. Many of them are too proud to listen to someone that might look like me. They're always talking about love and equality and how, we're all the same or whatever else. But they don't want to hear, out my opinion. They don't want to hear what I have to say. If it's someone that looks like them, if it's their pastor, if it's, their president, if it's their congressman who they've been doing nothing but lying to them this whole time, they're quicker to believe them than someone that looks like me. Because they've been conditioned to believe that, I don't know anything. People, black and brown people don't know anything. That's what the society has, this is how they've set things up. and they've done it all the way here to the end because look, we're at the end. There is no fixing these problems. And what's going to happen is you're hearing truth, you're seeing how um, there is no future for this society. But when the Most High came to bring you truth and give you the alternative or give you the truth, you refuse to even accept it or to believe that it's a possibility because of the person that's telling you the truth. Because society has set up themselves, set up the Gentiles to always be right, to always have the answers. But when you're in your blessings, it seemed as if things would always work out for you. But right now, that's not the case. You can believe that this guy here who authored this book came up with this information on his own. But we know that he did not. They did, the Most High uses you other nations to preserve our information because he knew that we were going to be asleep. So he uses you to preserve our information so that we know that he's going to give it back to us when we awaken. All information is going to go back to the appropriate people's hands. All lands are going to go back to the appropriate people's hands. You're going to go back to your lands. You're going to go back to your blessing. Whatever the Most High had given you, he's going to give that back to you. But you're going to have to serve out your curses just like we have. So like I said, you're getting an opportunity to see this truth. You're getting an opportunity to hear this truth. And what you do with it is up to you. But just take a look. Every single day you're seeing, more destruction. You're seeing more trains, falling off, of you're wrecking and, you know, falling off of the train tracks. You're seeing more destruction of the waterways. You're seeing more destruction of the air. You're seeing, every single day there's something going on. Because, and that's more of a sign that things are never going to go back to normal. You're seeing your wealth being given away to another country, other countries. You look, these other countries are working together. They know that they have a common enemy. I was watching a short little clip and it was talking about showing like all the military equipment that was being moved from here to Poland. And it's just so much equipment. Now, if Russia really wanted to take over the Ukraine, wouldn't you think that they would have done a lot of this stuff before all this equipment shows up? Before all this other military equipment shows up? Or are they just kind of like fighting a little bit, but allowing all this equipment to leave the Americas and show back up over there? It seems as if they're all working together. They're giving a dog and pony show to the rest of the world. They're moving all your money over there. They're moving all your military equipment over there. So it seems as if they're all working together because they know that there's something bigger coming after them. Just like we talked about with Admiral Byrd and his diary. He was warned. He was told to bring this story to the world. He was told that, hey, you've had your opportunity. We're telling you guys to change your ways, but these Gentiles, these people here, chose not to, and chose not to give you the opportunity to even have a choice to change your ways. They didn't even let you hear the story. It took someone who looks like me to be used by the Most High to bring this information out. They wouldn't even let you see this information. They wouldn't even put two and two together because they don't want you to know that. They want you to realize it when it's too late. They want you to realize it when the Most High removes His people. Then you'll have no choice but to realize that they made you an enemy of the Most High. They only gave you a superficial understanding of Scripture. And we're trying to show you that the Scripture has way more information and a much deeper understanding, and that you got to really dig deep in order to get understanding and in order to be able to chase after the Most High. Our Father is infinite, so it makes sense that His information is infinite. You could learn things forever. He's the most high. So never ever think that you understand everything and that you got 100% of the truth and that you understand everything. Because I mean, if that's the kind of God you follow, then like I said, then you've put him in a box. I don't follow a power like that. I follow one that is infinitely, you know, growing. He's infinite. My mind can't even comprehend him. So therefore, I have no idea. You know, that I would never say that I understand everything because I don't. So therefore, I'm always open to learning and growing, and I don't limit him to, you know, 70 books, 66 books, 80 books. He's infinite. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.